Good day. Today we will discuss the organization of the nervous system, focusing on its two main divisions, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. First, the central nervous system or the CNS. The CNS consists of the brain and the spinal cord. It serves as the body's control center, responsible for processing information, making decisions, and coordinating responses. The brain interprets sensory inputs, controls thoughts, memory, and emotions, and sends commands to the body, while the spinal cord acts as a pathway transmitting signals between the brain and the rest of the body and plays a vital role in reflexes. Next is the peripheral nervous system or the PNS. The PNS includes all the nerves and ganglia located outside the body, and the spinal cord. Nerves are these bundles of axons that carry signals throughout the body, while the ganglia are clusters of neurons, cell bodies found outside the CNS acting as relay points. The PNS connects the CNS to the rest of the body and has two main roles. First, it carries sensory information from the body to the CNS. Second, it carries motor commands from the CNS to muscles and glands. Looking at this diagram, you can see how the spinal cord branches out into numerous nerves that spreads throughout the body, forming an extensive network. In summary, the CNS is the control center, composed of the brain and the spinal cord. The PNS is the communication network made up of nerves and ganglia. Together, they coordinate all body activities and responses. Understanding this organization is fundamental to studying how the body senses, responds, and maintains the balance. This slide focuses on functional areas of the cerebral cortex as shown in multiple views of the brain, the lateral, sagittal, superior, and inferior. Let's begin with the frontal lobe, located at the anterior of the brain. This region is responsible for higher mental functions including concentration, planning, judgment, emotional expression, creativity, and inhibition. Within the frontal lobe, we identify the motor function area. This area initiates the voluntary muscle movements. Nearby is the Broca's area, which controls the muscles involved in speech production. Next, we move to the parietal lobe, located behind the frontal lobe. This contains the primary sensory area, which receives sensation from the skin and muscles such as touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. Adjacent to it is the somatosensory association area, responsible for interpreting these sensations, allowing recognition of texture, weight, and shape. Now, looking at the temporal lobe, located laterally, this region contains the auditory area, responsible for hearing. It also includes Wernicke's area, which is responsible for understanding spoken and written language. At the posterior part of the brain is the occipital lobe that houses the visual area responsible for sight, image recognition, and visual perception. Moving deeper and medial structures seen in the sagittal view. The association area integrates information from different regions, contributing to memory, emotion, and equilibrium. The emotional area, part of the limbic system, regulates pain, hunger, and even the fight or flight response. The olfactory area is also responsible for the sense of smell. Additionally, another motor related region controls eye movement and orientation, helping coordinate visual tracking. Finally, let's highlight the cerebellum, labeled separately. Its primary role is in motor coordination, balance, and equilibrium, even posture, ensuring smooth and precise movements. In summary, the brain is organized into specialized cortical areas, each responsible for specific functions, but all are working together, integrated behavior, perception, and movement. Right now, we are looking at the mid-sagittal section of the brain, which means that the brain has been cut along the midline to expose its internal structures. Let's begin with the largest region of the brain, which is the cerebrum, right here. There. This is the superior, highly folded part of the brain. The folds you see are called gyri, plural, or gyrus, and the grooves are called sulcus, singular, and the plural is sulci. This increases surface area for a higher function such as thinking, memory, and voluntary movement. Moving inward, notice the thick C shaped white structure, which is this one. We call corpus callosum. It connects the left and the right cerebral hemispheres of the brain, allowing communication between both sides. Just beneath it, we find the thalamus, which is this one, this region. This acts as the brain's main sensory relay station, directing incoming sensory information to the appropriate cortical areas. Below the thalamus is the hypothalamus, this region. This structure is essential for homeostasis, meaning it regulates body's temperature, hunger, thirst, and links the nervous system to the endocrine system. Extending downward, we see the brainstem. This portion right here, the brainstem, including this one, yeah, which consists of three main parts: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. The brainstem controls vital functions such as breathing, heart rate, and consciousness, and serves as the connection between the brain and the spinal cord. Posterior to the brainstem is the cerebellum. This portion right here. It has a distinctive tightly folded appearance and is responsible for balance, coordination, and fine motor control. Finally, note that the continuation inferiorly, the spinal cord, which transmits signals between the brain and the rest of the body. In summary, this mid-sagittal view highlights how the brain integrates higher cognitive functions, sensory processing, and vital life-sustaining mechanism in a highly organized structure. Now, let us discuss specifically the different cortical regions of the brain. First, we have the cerebrum, which is the largest part. The outer folded region is divided into colored lobes. The frontal lobe, colored pink in front, is responsible for thinking, decision making, personality, and voluntary movement. The parietal lobe on the upper middle is colored pink or blue, processes sensory information like touch, pressure, pain, and spatial awareness. The temporal lobe on the side, which is on the lower portion, colored pink, involved in hearing, memory, and language comprehension. The occipital lobe, colored blue or green at the back, handles vision and visual processing. Second, we have the corpus callosum on the inside, that is curved, dark banded, is a thick bundle of nerve fibers connecting the left and right hemispheres, allowing connection and communication between both sides of the brain. Next, we have the thalamus, which is the small oval in the center. Acts as the relay station for sensory signals, sending information to the appropriate areas of the cortex. Then we have hypothalamus below the thalamus, maintaining homeostasis such as temperature, hunger, thirst, linking the nervous system to the endocrine system. The pituitary gland, the small structure hanging below, known as the master gland, releases hormones that regulates other endocrine glands. Then we have the brainstem, the vertical gray structure, divided into parts. We have the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. These functions to control vital functions like breathing, heart rate, and reflexes, connecting the brain to the spinal cord. Then we have the cerebellum, the yellow or purple structure at the back of the brain, responsible for balance, coordination, and fine motor control, helping to make movements smooth and precise. Then we have the spinal cord, extending downward, carries signals between the brain and the body, responsible for reflex action. Now, let us discuss the cranial nerves. These are 12 pairs of nerves that emerge directly from the brain, primarily from the brainstem, with the exception of the first and second cranial nerves, which arise from the cerebrum. They are responsible for sensory and motor functions in the head and the neck, with some also extending to areas like the chest and the abdomen. You can find cranial nerves originating from the brainstem at specific location. Olfactory and the optic nerves arise from the cerebrum, while the rest of the cranial nerves, the third to the 12th, originate from the brainstem. Cranial nerves are numbered using Roman numerals from 1 to 12 and may have sensory, motor, or parasympathetic function. Let's begin with cranial nerve 1, or the olfactory nerve. This is a sensory nerve responsible for the sense of smell. Then we have cranial nerve number 2, or the optic nerve, is also a sensory nerve that is responsible for vision. The cranial nerve 3, or the oculomotor nerve, is a nerve that has both motor and parasympathetic function. It controls most of the eye movement, raises the eyelids, constricts the pupils, and helps adjust the lens. The cranial nerve 4, or the trochlear nerve, is a motor nerve that controls one eye muscle, allowing downward and lateral eye movement. Cranial nerve 5, or the trigeminal nerve, is both sensory and motor, providing sensation to the face and teeth and controls muscles used for chewing or mastication. Cranial nerve 6, or the abducens nerve, is a motor nerve responsible for lateral eye movement. Cranial nerve 7 is the facial nerve, has sensory, motor, or parasympathetic function, controlling facial expressions, providing taste, and stimulates salivary and tear glands. Cranial nerve 8, or the vestibulocochlear nerve, is a sensory nerve responsible for hearing and balance. The cranial nerve 9, or the glossopharyngeal nerve, is a sensory, motor, or parasympathetic nerve that is involved in taste, sensations at the back of the tongue, swallowing, and salivary secretion. Cranial nerve 10, or the vagus nerve, is a major mixed nerve with sensory, motor, and parasympathetic role. It controls functions in the pharynx, larynx, and internal organs, including heart rate and digestion. Cranial nerve 11, or the accessory nerve, is a motor nerve that controls muscles of the neck and upper back, such as the sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. Cranial nerve 12, or the hypoglossal nerve, is a motor nerve responsible for tongue movement. In summary, cranial nerves are essential for sensory perception, movement, and autonomic control, especially in the head and the neck, with the vagus nerve extending its influence to the thoracic and abdominal organs.